Good morning, everyone. This is Ted Murmagos at the Division of Child Support Services in Delaware. I'm sorry it's a little later than 11:30. I usually like to start on time. We're here, though, and if we have to, we can certainly stay on a little bit longer as I got a little bit of a late start today. So this is the August 2026 Child Support Connection, and hopefully we'll get some questions and comments and be able to hopefully, like we've done in the past, help resolve some child support related challenges that folks are having. And then additionally, from time to time, we hear about some good things that the Child Support Office has done for clients and non-custodial parents. So I'm hoping that we may also hear a little bit about some of the good things we're doing. But I'm going to start with, as I always do, reading our mission statement here at the Division of Child Support Services. And it is our mission here at the Division of Child Support Services to deliver quality customer support by partnering with parents to improve the lives of children and their families. This is achieved through obtaining accurate child support orders to meet the financial, medical, and emotional needs, to promote family self-sufficiency and the best outcomes for children. And so that's our mission statement here at Child Support. And as you can see, I like to consider that mission statement really a family-centered mission statement, family-focused mission statement. So and that's something that we try to live by here at the Division of Child Support Services. The other thing, and we've already got a little bit of a disclaimer in the comment section, that if you are going to leave a comment or have a question about your child support situation, that you don't put any personal information in the chat. If we need to explore your case a little bit more, we can go ahead and get you to do a private message to us here at Child Support, and I have people that can go ahead and research what your particular situation is. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the things we're working on here at the Child Support Office. And one of the things I haven't really talked much about, but is something that we are actually working on here at Child Support, is looking at ways that the child support system can be a little bit more proactive in helping manage child support cases through the use of maybe some artificial intelligence or some other systems changes that have been identified that will help smooth over and work through the child support cases a little bit easier. So one of the things we've been doing here at Child Support since I believe February is we've been meeting monthly to talk with employees about how we can make their jobs easier with the use of either computer changes or updates, or the use of artificial intelligence to handle some of the more simpler processes that require human intervention now. Can something be done to reduce the level of human intervention on a child support case? So we've been meeting, and a lot of the information that we've gotten, in my mind, truly isn't artificial intelligence is going to improve the way we process a case, but has resulted in maybe what we call systems tweaks or systems changes that we can make to the Delaware child support system that will help make the jobs easier of folks in our accounting unit or in our operations or customer service unit. So we're exploring some of that time-saving systems-related changes that we can make. We do have probably somewhere between 5 and maybe 10 changes that that we want to make to the child support system that will improve case processing efforts. So that's one thing that's very exciting around here, that we're able to look and see what kind of changes we can make that will reduce errors, will make the system more efficient, will make the workload of the employees a little bit less. So we're really excited about that here in Delaware. The other thing that we're looking at is, there are some maybe 2 or 3 truly artificial intelligence related changes that we're looking at making. One is creating a database for our employees who need policy updates or policy directives on how to handle a child support case. We're going to be creating a database of all of our policies, all of our business processes, all of our director's office directives, that an employee could say, okay, I'm stuck kind of on this case. What do I do to move the case forward? They can go into that database and learn what the next steps in the case processing methods are. So we are actively looking at trying to improve the Delaware child support system through the use of AI. And then also, this is a little bit more tricky, but we're looking at oh yeah, so sorry about that, it slipped my mind. So we're looking at developing a process that our employees in our customer service unit can actually have the conversation that they're having with our customer actually we already record those phone calls to our customer service unit, but in addition to that, those calls will be transcribed for our customer service unit employees so that they can they're going to be able to type their case notes in the system, but they can also rely on that transcription of the call to either copy and paste all or portion of that into our child support system. So that will reduce the time of them between phone calls having to put in these case notes, because the case notes will be transcribed and recorded for them, that they can then use that to help them put the case notes in the system. So so that will save them time. And so those are 2 things right now that we are working on that will help with employee efficiency, help the worker do what they need to do to move the cases quicker to where they need to go, and help them with the actual case processing piece of it. So those are 2 things that we're actually working on that are very exciting. And we're really trying to move those initiatives forward for being able to help our employees. And I'm just looking, making sure there's no comments. And then, the other thing that I always like to talk about when I'm doing the child support connection is, we're trying to really encourage non-custodial parents to participate in this process, so that so even their questions can be answered. We still find, even after all this time of trying to encourage non-custodial parents to be engaged in the child support process, we still find that it's difficult for them to either come to our office or even come on this child support connection. I'd love to be able to answer questions from a non-custodial parent who's having difficulty with their child support case. But we are continuing to work to kind of break down those barriers to let non-custodial parents know that they can participate, and we want them to participate. We're actually doing some work in the 4 level 5 prisons throughout the state. And it's really encouraging that we're able to go into the prisons and meet with non-custodial parents about their child support case and helping them modify their obligations because they are incarcerated. And we go into the level 4 facilities as well as the level 5 to share, and we have a presentation that we give to the incarcerated. But those level 5 incarcerated individuals, it's so important that we meet with them to tell them that they can have their obligation modified. And there's nothing better than going into the facility and sharing with a non-custodial parent that their obligation has been modified because they are incarcerated. Okay, so I see Ms. Bush has a question, and I really appreciate you for being here today. Answering questions is the most important part of these child support connections, and I hope that I will be able to answer your question. So let's see here. I finally got a child support order finalized for my children. Father is in Florida after 8 months, and he still hasn't paid a thing. I told my caseworker and got a letter that it will be another 4 to 6 months to hear back from the Florida case manager, who I can't directly speak with. He already owes $20,000 in arrears. The system of communication with other states is very frustrating. Okay, thank you for this question. I really appreciate it and understand your frustration. The situation is this, and it is difficult. But the way that it works is, if you are in the state of Delaware and you are a client of ours here in Delaware, you really should be communicating with us only, and only when the state of Florida asks to speak to you specifically about an issue should you have that kind of engagement. But we should be communicating with the state of Florida on your behalf. And it's a little discouraging to me, I'll be honest with you, that we're telling you 4 to 6 months. Some states, it does take a little longer. I totally get that. When we're talking about some of the bigger states, in Florida kind of does fall into that category, but 4 to 6 months is still, in my mind, too long. So what we're going to do is, because ultimately, if there's a specific situation that needs to be resolved with the state of Florida, we have other ways of communicating with them that it's definitely should not take 4 to 6 months. We not only obviously have the telephone, we should be able to pick up the phone and try to speak to your caseworker on your behalf, but we also have electronic methods, newly electronic methods to communicate with other states on behalf of our clients. That is a lot more efficient and a lot quicker than 4 to 6 months. So, and I see there's a little bit more. Let's see. Ms. Bush, what I'd like to do is this. I have my team is also tuning in today, and they help me with this. If you could send us a private message with your case number and maybe your date of birth, just so we can access your child support case. And we'll get with someone in our office, look at your case a little bit, and reach out to the state of Florida in those other methods. I'm sure we sent them a letter. As you mentioned, there's what we call a transmittal that we can send to other states around the country on behalf of our clients. But there's other methods that I think Florida also participates in. um, and and okay. So, like I said, I have some people listening, tuning in from my office. So we did. Um, we are the caseworker on your case is already communicating with the state of Florida in using other methods. So the 4 to 6 months, I would not pay attention to that. I think you're going to hear back from us a lot sooner than that. And the information I'm getting from my team is that the communication has already taken place. And so the other thing too, it looks like there are, and let me say this to you too. Your caseworker on the case is one of the best. She's one of the best that we have in our doing the work for us here in Delaware, and she's already in touch with Florida through other methods. So I don't think it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks, and then so I think it's going to be a lot quicker than that. So my thing is this: if we're already looking at the case, and you should hear back from us sooner. And the other thing too, you've waited a long time, and it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating, and I think I mentioned this during our July Child Support Connection. When there's other states involved, it does take a little bit longer to get things kind of rolling and getting. I know you've probably filled out a huge packet of information that had to go to Florida to have all of that kind of examined for them to create the case and then get it into a court arena. It does take a lot of time, and it is frustrating. I understand that. And then on top of everything, and I'm not saying this about the other party, I don't know anything about that person, but if they're someone that is specifically trying to avoid the obligation that's in front of them, it does then complicate matters and make things a little bit more difficult. So with that being said, I would communicate back with our office in a couple weeks if you do not hear from your caseworker specifically. And I'm betting it's not going to take 4 to 6 months, and you should hear a lot sooner than that. So yeah, you're welcome, and yeah, it's definitely going to be it's going to be difficult, and all we can really hope for and really is that the state of Florida does what they need to do when we reach out to them, as well as their, just like when we receive a case from another agency from another state, we work that case like it's a Delaware case, and we work it hard. I'm hoping that Florida treats it the same way. So if you don't hear from someone from Delaware, if you don't hear back from us in a couple of weeks, I would reach back out. And then remember, and this is true for everyone, you got to communicate. For when there's another state involved, you got to communicate with us, and we will communicate with them on your behalf. That's just the way it works. And I appreciate your patience, and I wish you well, and wish you the best. But thank you, I do really thank you for reaching out to us through this process, and thank you for the question. Really do appreciate it. And let's see. The other thing I wanted to go back to is, and I guess that's probably a good idea to talk about our offices, because I try to do this all the time. Let's see, I'm sorry guys, I want to just make sure I got everybody. I'd like to go back and look and make sure I got everyone. Okay. So in Delaware, we have 3 offices statewide, 1 office in each county. I recently was at a child support conference, and had the privilege of talking about some of the safety components that we have implemented in our 3 offices. And there was other states also participating, but it was really great to talk about some of the safety measures that we have put in place to protect our employees and to protect anyone who walks into our child support office. So really grateful to be able to do that. So for child support here in Delaware, we have 3 offices statewide. And we encourage people, if you need help and you want to sit down with somebody to talk about your child support case, to have a child support case created. If you're a non-custodial parent and you want to come in, you can come into our offices. There are no restrictions. Anybody who has a child support question is more than welcome to come into our office. Right now, today, I am sitting in our Newcastle County office, and we're located at 84A Churchman's Corporate Center. I always refer to our office here in Newcastle as about 1/10 of a mile, maybe a tad bit longer, west of Route 13 on Route 273. So if you're at the Burger King and McDonald's on 13, head west. There's a huge complex. We are in that complex. It's 84A Christiana Road, also known as Route 273 here in Newcastle. In Kent County, we are at 905 South Governors Avenue on the 2nd floor. And I always refer to us being about 1/4 of a mile south on South Governors Avenue, 1/4 mile south of Kent General Hospital. And then our office located in Sussex County is at 10105 Office Circle, Georgetown Professional Park. And I always let people know that we are right across the street from the Walmart in that professional park. And folks can come in to any of those 3 offices. We're happy to serve you. Also, we put some information in the chat that our phone number is 302-577-7171. And lastly, and I see there's a new question, so I'm going to come to you soon. Lastly, if you want to reach out, this is something that I'm encouraging people to do. Sign up for the Delaware Child Support Customer Portal. Child Support Customer Portal through a website called my.delaware.gov. my.delaware.gov. You can pull down the child support app, and you can communicate with your worker through a quasi-email system. Email your worker directly. my.delaware.gov is where you start. And you can reach out to your worker directly. Don't worry about waiting on the phones. You can email us directly. If you need an account statement, you can print it right from home. You can share documents with us, address changes, and employer information. And that's for custodial and non-custodial parents. All you need is a case number to get into the child support customer portal. And the question from Ms. Scott: why are child support orders not being enforced? When payments are missed, nothing seems to happen. Okay. Thank you for this question. This is an awesome question. This gives me an opportunity to share a lot of information about how we enforce court orders here in Delaware. Let's start with some of the automated enforcement tools that we have. So in all situations, if a person has not paid or stopped paying, or their arrears reach certain thresholds, certain enforcement tools that we have here at Child Support automatically trigger. So if you want to know what the different thresholds are, you can go to our website through delaware.gov, and then look, you can find us, Division of Child Support Services, under Health and Social Services. But there are different thresholds for the different enforcement tools that may be coming into place. So, for instance, one of the most used enforcement tool that we have, is license suspension. When a non-custodial parent is $3,500 in arrears and hasn't made a payment in 60 days, license suspension will trigger automatically, and they get sent a letter that says we're going to suspend their license. If they owe a certain amount in arrears, the IRS, the Federal Tax Refund Intercept Program, kicks in, or the State Division of Revenue tax refund will go into effect. We have passport denial. The federal government is now revoking people's passports if they owe arrears. We send people's names to the credit bureaus that they're delinquent in their child support payments. So those are all, there's more. Trust me, there's all these different automated tools that go into effect when a person stops paying and meets various thresholds in their child support arrearages. But then there's other things that have to happen. There's other enforcement tools that we can use. For instance, if a person has not made a payment in 60 days, we can file a contempt petition with the family court. And he would or she would be summoned into the court to tell them why they've stopped making payments. And can be held in contempt of court for not following the child support order. So there are a whole bunch of different enforcement tools that we can use. You know, if it gets to be egregious enough, the courts can even incarcerate people. And if there's they've been found in contempt over and over again, the courts can at some point incarcerate. So there are a lot of enforcement tools happening. Now, there's a couple other things that you need to know. One is, and I'm not saying this is your case specifically. I don't know, the facts of your case, but in some cases, non-custodial parents lose their jobs, or they become disabled, or there's certain things that happen to them. They become incarcerated, and they can't pay their child support obligations anymore. We're supposed to pick up the phone and have a conversation with them about why their payments have stopped. So if you've called our office and we haven't reached out to the non-custodial parent to find out what's going on, we should do that. Because if they're incarcerated, if they're now disabled and they have documentation to prove that, if they become unemployed, we may not be able to file a contempt petition per se because they don't or lose that ability to pay. But we should be picking up the phone and finding out why. The other thing is all those other enforcement tools don't stop. The passport denial, the credit bureau reporting, the license suspension, the tax intercepts. So all of that stuff does continue. So there are a ton of enforcement tools that are happening and going on behind the scenes. But if the person that you're associated with has not made a payment in 60 days, we should be looking at filing a contempt petition against them. The other thing that's important for me to tell people is this. If there is a current capias, which is a civil bench warrant, the person, the other party, the non-custodial parent, was required to go to court on a contempt petition. We filed a contempt petition. He didn't show up. The courts can issue a family court capias. And if there's a capias in place already, we cannot generate a new petition because that previous petition has not been resolved yet. And there's a capias out for that person's arrest. A capias is a civil bench warrant. So I always like to mention that because if you already had a contempt petition filed because the person is not paying, there may be a capias on them. And I just don't know the specifics, but I want to make sure people understand, because if someone continues to not pay and there's already a contempt petition pending because of a capias, then we can't do another petition. So, Ms. Scott, I hope I was able to answer your question. Oh, I see you got more information here. I missed that. Let me go back. I have a strong Let's see here. I have to strongly disagree. The order I'm referring to is 40 plus in arrears, and I'm always told what you're sharing, nothing happens. Um, yeah, if it's 40,000 in arrears, um, has there been I guess the question is, has there or is there a contempt petition pending with the court? And if not, we would need to explore that. So more than happy to take a deeper dive into your situation. And if you do want to send us a message, I'm certainly happy to have a worker look at it from my office, and let's take a look at it and see what's going on. And again, like I mentioned to Miss Bush, if you don't have the case number handy, if you had a maiden name, or if you had a different name that the case may be under, please include that in your private message to us. But I want to assure people, like even in your situation, all of those other enforcement tools are actually happening. Now, the other thing too I wanted to mention, and then I'll get to Miss Bush's second question here, her comments. The other thing that happens is, so let's back up. So I mentioned the license suspension deal. If the person is 3,500 and no payment in 60 days, the license suspension kicks in. Now, do people drive on a suspended license? Absolutely, they do. The tax intercept program, if we submit them to the federal IRS or we submit them to the Delaware Division of Revenue, if they don't file their taxes, we're not going to get any kind of a lump sum. Passport denial or passport revocation, if the person never tries to get a passport or doesn't have a passport, that's not going to work. You following me? The thing about it is, though, what may work for you, Miss Scott, your case, Miss Scott, may not work for Miss Bush's case, and vice versa. But I can tell you, some of these enforcement tools do get the other party engaged in our conversation. So license suspension is a biggie. When we send them the notice that we're going to suspend their license, they call or they come in, and we try to negotiate a payment with them, get a payment in the door. So not every enforcement tool works for everybody, but the one thing I want to assure you, Ms. Scott, is if he's that much in arrears, all of those enforcement tools are in play. All of those different enforcement tools that we have are in play. It looks like something needs to either happen with the family court, or we need to find out if there's a capias out for his arrest, and that's why we can't generate a new contempt petition. But if you're 40,000 in arrears and he has not made a payment in a while, I would have thought we would have already done a contempt petition or had a conversation with him about why payments have stopped. Sometimes, and we try to tell our employees, on this Child Support Connection, I am honest with people. We try to, I'm trying to find a nice word, encourage, promote, get it through people's heads. They need to make the phone call to non-custodial parents, and they're going to find out these non-custodial parents want to engage in the process. Because one of the things, and I know I'm kind of going on here, one of the things I've found is when we have a conversation with a non-custodial parent about getting back on track, they usually do try to get back on track. One of the things I say to non-custodial parents all the time is if you can't afford what the court order is, pay something and pay it regularly, every week, every 2 weeks, every month. Get something in the door and then go file for a modification if it's warranted. So, we're going to make sure our employees are doing a better job calling non-custodial parents and finding out what's going on as to why payments have stopped. But thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. And we can do a little bit more work. If you want to send us a private message, we'll take a look at it with your contact information. And if we don't have an email, this is the other thing too I like to mention to people. If we don't have an email for you in our system, please give it to us. Please give it to us. I'm encouraging. We love doing communicate by email, and you can communicate with your worker through the email system. So Ms. Bush, let's see here. some of this is kind of looks a little weird to me, but there's another way to be alerted. If there is another way to be alerted, if a caseworker responds, is there another way to be alerted if the caseworker responds to a message in the portal aside from logging in and checking directly on the portal each day? So that's a great question. Obviously, besides the phone, besides emailing you directly, some people like to do that, some people don't like to do that. I email people all the time directly, but checking the portal, having to log into the portal is really the only way where workers have been instructed to communicate with people. Besides the telephone and there's some, again, being frank here, some people like to use their state email to communicate with the public. I do it all the time. Some are a little bit more skittish on doing that because sometimes cases shift around to people, and they're getting emails for cases they're not supposed to be working and that kind of thing. So, I hope that answered your question. Some people do use email more, and we're actually having a conversation about better ways that we can use the email system to communicate with the public. We're working on that a little bit more, but I would encourage you to call our office, use the portal, and if you're using the portal, I'd really like to know what you think about it, because I'm really, really, really trying to encourage people to use it more. I think it's a very, very useful tool for the public. So thank you for that. Okay, great. There's questions. I love this. Thank you. Miss Hyatt, she's asking, how many times do you go to court for arrears before you actually see a judge? Good question. So the way it works in family court is you go to mediation first. If there are multiple mediations and the person has been found in contempt of court in mediation, I believe it's a couple times, I could be wrong there, the case then gets scheduled before a family court commissioner. And truly, the commissioner is really the highest level in a normal process of creating child support orders, okay? Now, there's some differences here. If there's a divorce proceeding and there's a divorce order, and then sometimes when children are involved, the judge hears those cases and will include in the order a child support obligation. But for the most part, it ends at a commissioner's level, unless either party has a problem with the way that the commissioner calculated the child support order, and either party can file for a review of the commissioner's order, and that would be reviewed. And I don't believe there's a hearing involved, but a family court judge would review that order to determine, was it calculated correctly, and they would rule from that. They would issue an order that says, Commissioner, you need to take another look at this, or the order is fine as written. So if you're thinking that you're going to walk in and someday have a hearing before a judge, it's unlikely. It's unlikely here in Delaware. And then your next question is, can you suspend a conceal to carry as well as a license suspension? Wow, this is a great question. And can you I got to think about this. This is something. I like the idea. I'm going to be honest with you. I like the idea of being able to suspend a concealed carry license. I may pursue that. I may pursue it. I'm going to talk to my supervisor. Everybody has a supervisor. I have one too. I'm going to talk to my supervisor about this. As everybody knows, when you mess with guns, and it's controversial. Let's be honest. It's controversial. But I'm going to talk to somebody about it and see if they like this idea, and if so, maybe we pursue legislation to include concealed carry, include issuing of licenses to individuals who owe child support. I like it. Oh my gosh, I like it. I'm gonna bring it up to someone. You got me thinking about this. It's controversial. It's controversial for sure. And then as well as a license suspension. And if you're talking about carrying a firearm, like I said, I'm going to pursue it. We already have the ability to spend driver's licenses, business licenses, professional licenses, and yes, someone emailed me. I got that in my head. And hunting and fishing licenses. Hey, sorry about that, but I'm going to talk to somebody. I can't guarantee you. It's controversial. I'm going to talk to somebody. That's all I can say. Thank you, Ms. Hyatt, for that. I really appreciate that. I'm going to come back to Miss Yvette. Let me just do these two for Miss Hyatt. I mean, my ex-husband hadn't paid in over a year. We have been 2 times, never seen a judge, yet the DAG always gives him another chance. My ex hasn't had his license for the 2nd time, drove himself to court, no one cared. Yeah, so like I said, we have these enforcement tools. They can be broken. The rules can be broken by non-custodial parents. The hope is, someday he'll be pulled over by law enforcement and they'll see that his license is suspended. Miss Yvette, why can't DCSS wage attach to non-custodial parents' future Social Security if it has been years of missed They don't work, not on disability, or allegedly working under the table. Non-custodial parents' future Social Security payments. I guess that would require some federal legislation, I would think, and a regulatory change at the federal level. And let me say this though, because one of the things that occurred to me was was people need to know that these cases stay open until the child support arrears are paid in full. So we have cases in our system where the children, talking about the children now, are 30, 40, 50 years old, and we're still trying to collect, or we are collecting on some arrearages. So, I mean, there is always still a chance to be able to collect Social Security benefits and attach those wages, but it's going to be a long time. But you're asking for future payments. I guess I would have to talk to our federal partners about that. I'm not quite sure how that would work. But I mean, it's worth having a conversation about, and I'll get one of my people to write that down, and we will bring it up to the feds to see if there's something we can do. As you know, the things going on in the federal government, if you haven't been paying attention, I mean, they're moving rather slow, but it's something that we can certainly look at. Reaching out and seeing what they say about it, and exploring how that maybe would work. Awesome questions, awesome comments. Really grateful for all of them, and I hope that there are some more before we conclude at 12:30. I'm going to be here. If there are, I'll stick around for as long as there are questions being entered into the chat. So I talked a little bit about the offices. I talked a little bit about mydelaware.gov. joining the child support portal. Very important, I think, for people to know how that works and how to use it. And then I guess, we talked a lot about the enforcement tools. One of the things too, like I was mentioning, what works for one case doesn't necessarily work for another. So just keep the faith on that situation. At some point, an enforcement tool that we have is going to work. To get that non-custodial parent to get back on track and start making payments. And like I said, I want non-custodial parents to call our office and talk about getting back on track. I would love for non-custodial parents to join this child support connection to get back, figure out how they can get back on track with their child support obligations. And I've been saying it. I know I've said it for a couple of months, and I really do want to try and do this, is to have an evening event just for non-custodial parents so that we can figure out a way to communicate with them directly, to talk about how they can get back on track with their child support orders. And, like I said, I've gotten myself in trouble in the past for saying this, but I'm going to say it again. And if you're a custodial parent, I'd like to hear what you think, I guess. If you're still on the line, put it in the comment section. I try to encourage the non-custodial parents to pay something, even if it's not the full amount, because I think it's better to pay something regularly than to struggle or to not pay anything. And if some cases, if they have to go into court and file for a modification, I encourage them to do that too, because what we're trying to do, part of our mission statement, is to make the family self-sufficient. Can they support themselves and pay the court-ordered amount? And if they can't, they really need to get in court to modify that obligation in order to be able to be self-sufficient. We want all parties in the child support obligation situation to be self-sufficient, and it's important that they do that. Everybody is struggling, but I think in order to at least help that family and help the children, you got to pay some portion of that obligation in order to financially help the party. So, I know I started a little late today, so if there's questions, I may go a little long, but if not, I may continue just to conclude at 12:30, which is right around the corner here. So let's see, there's something else I can chat about real quick. Let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about, and I'm always encouraging folks to learn a little bit how we establish paternity here in Delaware, because paternity for children is so important. The children should really know who both parents, and it should be recognized on on the child's birth certificate. So in Delaware, there's 3 ways that paternity is established. One is through the Voluntary Acknowledgement of Paternity program, and that's where both parents sign and notarize a statement identifying themselves as the biological parents of the children. That document is signed signed and submitted to the Office of Vital Statistics here in Delaware. Child support will notarize that statement, notarize that voluntary acknowledgement of paternity form for both parents. We will do it, and we will do it for free, and we will help you get that paternity document filed with the family, with the Office of Vital Statistics. I'm sorry about that. And then the second way is through genetic testing. We can help both parents and the child be scheduled for genetic testing. We do it at LabCorp. And I always joke, it's not, they're not drawing blood anymore. That's a long time ago. They take a swab of the cheek, of the children, the mom and the dad, putative father, and they go ahead and will do genetic testing. And the results come back at 99.99%. The court, in a court hearing, will acknowledge that genetic testing result and will order that vital statistics put the child's, the parent's name on the child's birth certificate. And then the third way, which we don't really talk a lot about because we're not involved in that process, is if the parents were married at the time the children were born. Office of Vital Statistics automatically updates that birth certificate with the name of the parents who were married at the time that the child was born. So those are the three ways paternity is established, and we are always talking about paternity because it's so important. If you're a grandparent watching this video, encourage your children to get that paternity established for that child. There's so many benefits for that child that if paternity isn't established, they're going to miss out on. The most important is those Social Security benefits. If the parents pass away before the child turns 18, they are eligible for benefits. But if paternity is not established for that child, the child's not going to get the benefit. So it's so important that they do that, among other things. There's emotional needs and social needs and everything like that. That is so important that the child knows who both parents are. And then we'll help you do that. So go ahead and get paternity established for these children here in Delaware and help us get that done. I'm going to conclude the August 2026 Child Support Connection. We will be back on Monday, September 7th. Monday, September 7th, unless that is a holiday, we should be here. And we'll be on time, I promise you, next month. September 7th, I'm going to look at my calendar real quick while I have a few seconds. And just to make sure it's not a holiday, it is Labor Day. That's what I thought. So we will probably either be here on the 8th, which is Tuesday, or we may bump it to the 14th of September. But we'll send a note out so everybody knows. And then again, if you need help from child support, 302-577-7171. That's the fastest way to get somebody. But please, I'm encouraging people to try the my.delaware.gov. Go to the portal, the child support portal, and you can get to your worker and look at your child support case from the portal. I think a lot of people are using that. And let's see here before I go. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that reminder. These videos on Facebook only stay for 30 days. Go to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Delaware Child Support. Delaware Child Support Services. You'll see my face there. You'll know you're in the right place. Please go to our YouTube channel. Check out the videos that we're placing there. And encourage folks. Please encourage people you know. Or just let people know, hey, check out the Child Support YouTube channel. And they may know somebody with a child support case that these videos can help them. Please do that. And encourage non-custodial parents to join us here the first Monday of every month from 11:30 to 12:30, except for next month, which is Labor Day. We'll send out a date. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the 14th of September. But please join us here at the Child Support Connection. Take care, everybody. I'll see you in September. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Thanks a lot, and thanks for joining. And thanks for these awesome questions. Really appreciate it. Take care, and have a good one.